Hi, it's Irene's World. It is what it is, and I wonder what it's like in your world today. But in Irene's World, it's all about scaling up to the 21st century skills. Now, over the weekend, I was privileged to have graced and been part of a virtual graduation, and this was carried out by Aga Khan International School in Mombasa. What an interesting and brilliant experience for me. And since then, I've just been following all the virtual graduations that are taking place all over in the different countries that have chosen to embrace this virtual way of doing things as we work and adapt to living with COVID. So it came to my awareness, three things actually came to awareness during this weekend because of the experience I'm now having with so many different areas of life that have now gone to the virtual interaction. And these three are 21st century skills. How aware are you of them, or how skilled are you in these 21st century skills? And in school or in the learning institutions, it has been categorized into three categories, and that is literacy skills, learning skills, and life skills. But these three together are expanded into 12 other skills. 12 faculties, like the 12 disciples who represent actually the 12 faculties of the human being who has been awakened to the highest way of consciousness awareness. The 12 skills I'm talking about, if you have not known them, critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication, information literacy, media literacy, technology literacy, flexibility, leadership, initiative, productivity, social skills. Those 12 should be within your active usability, if I'm allowed to use such an expression. I couldn't help but wonder how many of us have actually become aware that we need to embrace these 12 faculties. So I look at the skillers as number one, educators, parents, employers, employees. As long as you're a human being and you're interacting in whatever level of society, you have to be skilled with the 21st century skills, or else advancing life is forever going to leave you behind. And once you're not moving with what's trending, you will actually suffer, which means you will have a life of hell. After looking at the 21st century skills, how have we prepared, or how skilled have you been in that area? It brought me to the second issue, and that is parents, because I see them as the first line educator of the children we're calling the 21st century human resource. That's what they are. As a parent, how prepared are you to raise a 21st century child who in future is going to be a 21st century adult, depending where your children are, and they are ready to embrace this advancing life? I'll give you an example. I came across a mother who was definitely in need on one of the social media platforms. She was crying out and saying, I have a teenager. This teenager of mine doesn't want to listen to me. When they tell them to do something, they go into a mood and they say they'd rather leave home. In fact, they'd rather die. And I saw the various comments that came from, I don't know if they're parents, but I couldn't help but cringe in my skin. And I'm like, hey, guys, have we really understood the advancement of life? Because I could see most of them were coming from a 10th century or even 5th century mindset of parenting. Just because your mom raised you with a sapato, the plastic shoe that used to chase you in the corridor, it's as if it had some GPS, or that ladle spoon in the kitchen to put you right. The 21st century child is not going to be corrected like that. So have you really understood the constraints of a 21st century child? Now, don't think because your mother raised you in a certain way, a certain mindset, it's the same mindset you're going to use to raise your child. But all aboard, whichever generation and whichever century, what we're trying to always preserve is the values that human life puts at a pedestal and believes is what holds the whole of humanity and causes cohesion in society. So value, respect, honor, those will never change. They are universal foundation pillars. But how you go about administering the values of respect, honor, etc., you cannot use a 10th century or 5th century approach to raise a 21st century child. First of all, they are now coming in an age of technology where they have access to lots of information, where at one point they can even feel like they can raise themselves. Of course, they cannot. If your child is saying they'd rather die, there are deeper issues that you need to look in as a parent or even it could be raising from the interactions that child is having in school. And then remember, you're raising a teenager. They're not a child anymore, and they're not yet an adult. You know, the hormones are playing against them. They go into these moods. You as a parent, have you taken time to understand that the same way the terrible 2 gave you a headache, a teenager is going to give you a headache? You've got to understand what point they are in their life, the confusion going on in their body, the pressure of wanting validation even from you, the parent. You know they are a teenager, but they still have the child in them that they want you to sweet and hug and rock. So for that parent who brought that issue of a child who wants to run away, moods and die, I suggest you take some time to use this time to understand and get to understand the underlying fears that your child has. And once again, remember you're dealing with a teenager. Which brings me to the third and last issue, and that is the quality of human resource. How qualified are we to call ourselves a 21st century human resource? I kind of was playing between two. A skilled worker who is creative, innovative, flexible, versus a skilled worker who's highly decorated with academic accolades and has a fixed mindset, not flexible, wants to remain in that, well, almost absolute facts that he learned that gave them that decorated academic accolades that you find pinned up in the walls of their offices, or a huge file, or these days even on the flash disk, or even on the virtual cloud of your academic qualifications. Now, those are people we're going to contend with in the 21st century. Someone who is very intellectually decorated but is not ready to indulge in the 21st century skills, versus the one who got, well, qualified, got an education, but now has been exposed to the 21st century skills, all 12 of them. And it's amazing, at least here in Uganda, we tend to think that life skills is only teaching a child how to iron clothes, cook food. There are deeper things than that. Relationships, the lockdown itself has shown that there was a generation that was not nurtured on how to handle conflict, how to relate with one another. And so we have had increased cases of domestic violence. And someone wonders, why did I even marry this person in the first place? And then if you're to go back in their history, they were never prepared how to interact socially as a human being. And beyond a human being, to discover the divine life that is in them that normally causes a cohesion when conflict has been caused by these 5 senses. And it got me also thinking and looking at my own skills that I have. Am I still thinking like the teacher who graduated some decades ago, or have I skilled up to match up and be an educator who is relevant in the 21st century and centuries to come? So you too, take some time as we're easing out of this lockdown. Discover yourself. Are you equipped in the 21st century skills? Because that's what is going to be required of you. Is your mind resisting because you're going to have problems moving into a new normal? And as we see, I believe COVID came as a blessing to wake us up that life is advancing. Such calamities and pandemics that come waken us to know, hey, we have greater ability, greater skills of doing things in another way that will advance life for an individual and humanity as a whole. So I wonder what it's like in your world today, but in Irene's world, it's all about skilling up to the 21st century, baby. And so my song is, I am 21, going on 22 skills, and I will take care of you. It's Irene's world. It is what it is.